Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kyiv Lab podcast featuring Ukrainian innovators. And today I'm happy to welcome Vitaly Mokosy, who is a CTO of Atolla Technology that develops forensic hardware imagers. Hello.
Hi, Ira. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Nice to see you as well. And just as the first question to start, maybe you can tell us more about what does your company do and what makes it unique.
I always start with the phrase that we are makers of forensic hardware imagers, and then nobody understands what is that because people are usually unfamiliar with such a narrow niche, right? And there are a few components of that, like forensic hardware and imaging. What is that? It's about devices that copy drives. So literally, imaging is a bit-to-bit copying process of a drive with the specific requirements from the digital forensic sphere, like adding hashes into the reports, timestamps, and so on and so forth. So this is the main idea. And this copying of a drive, it's a small step in a digital forensic work, which is a part of life and work in specific businesses and organizations. So as you understand, we produce devices for B2B and even B2O, business to organization. And those are of industrial design. I have one little one here with me to show you. So why I say it's a little one, because it's literally the smallest one we have, and it fits into the camera now because the others are larger. So what people do with it, they plug drives into these ports and copy them, and they make this copy regardless of a state of the drive. So the drive can be damaged or healthy, and we know how to deal with damaged drives. And with damaged drive, it's always a tricky thing because you never probably face damaged drives in your life. And if you face a damaged drive, then your computer doesn't work. Moreover, your drive can get more and more degraded and stop working, turning into irresponsive brick after all. And that's it, your data is lost. So it's better, if it's just a common sense kind of advice, it's better to stop using your computer if something goes wrong with the drive, and then uh, pass it on to some data recovery company located somewhere around you in the city. Probably it would be the best explanation of what we do, if not to go into more detail.
That's great. Thank you for showing it. I think it's very interesting to see a real hardware, not just talk about it, but actually see would be cool also to to try it out, but I'm a little bit limited by my
Right.
physical location. I think it's also good you mentioned to better not to use your laptop, but also just do some backups. Well, a lot of my files are actually in the cloud, but the ones I hold on hard drives, it's always like a possibility I will not have them. So better to do some backups. I have a question. So you have these devices which some businesses use, and I know about the utility, which I think appeared a long time ago, which is called DD, and you can just connect some hard drive, I guess, and you can access this utility from your laptop, and you can read the hard drive or sort of recover it. So how is your device different from a simple recovery from just a laptop using Mac or Linux system?
The utility you mentioned is actually DD is just a copying tool which is included in every Linux, but there are some improved implementation of it as for damaged drives, like DD Rescue, for instance. And that one really can be helpful in a very, so to speak, mild situations. Like if you have a couple of bad sectors on a drive, it will cope with that. But when the situation is more difficult, and there is a number of various failures and types of failure for the drive, and typically what happens if you plug it into any computer, whether it's Linux, Windows, Mac OS, the behavior will still be the same. Operating system is not ready for the device that is damaged somehow, and it treats it like a good device. And when any read error occurs, it starts to retry reading, retry, and then first of all, it can cause degradation of the state of the drive. But secondly, you cannot literally work with it because typically all those operating systems they crash. So you see the blue screen of death from Windows. You see the kernel panic log from Linux, and you have to reboot the system, and you'll see it again then after reboot. So that is why it's not the way how you can work with the driver. Our system includes also Linux inside, but it's a Linux that has multiple patches in its kernel. So our engineers, and including me, we made a lot of changes into the Linux kernel to help it be resistant to the failures. And also in the hardware, there are some things that help to work with such kind of drives. For instance, every port, so there's a port where you connect a drive. Every port is equipped with the current measurement. So we measure current, and then we can categorize to some extent the type of a failure and provide with the strategy how it's better to image slash copy and drive. Because copying is a simple sector to sector, byte to byte copy, and we have sophisticated imaging engine that can go through a drive with the specific rules, like jumping from bad areas to good areas, to image all good areas in the first place, and only after that return to bad areas and try to apply different rules, like for instance initiate reverse imaging, like going backward. Or another thing that is kind of unique, if you take a hard disk drive, it consists of platters and the system of heads. So there are multiple heads that read from it. And one of typical failure is that one of the heads can be non-working. And imagine you have a 10 terabyte drive with 10 heads, and one head is not working. So with our tool and our product, when you start diagnostics, it detects that head number, let's say 9, is not working anymore, and it allows for disabling it. So you disable the head and you start the imaging or copying process, and you smoothly image 90% of a drive before getting to the problematic head. And after that, you decide what to do next. Whether its head is somehow working, there can be such cases when it's degraded, but it's not totally damaged. Then you can try to image it, go through this head, again applying some specific rules. Or if it's damaged, definitely it requires physical replacement, and then having 90% of the data already, you can calmly go to some data recovery, probably contractor, a third party company that helps you, and they will do the tough stuff for you, replacing the head.
Okay, interesting. In this forensic industry where you operate, and you develop hardware, and as I understand, you also have this software which is accompanying the hardware part. Can you share the unique challenges you have in this domain, because it is very specialized, very unique, the domain itself? So I'm just curious, maybe something you find interesting or challenging.
Great question. Actually, we are producing hardware devices, but our biggest team is a software team. It's 9 software engineers, programmers, right, and 6 QA engineers, and those make more than half of a company. We are 26 now, and it's a lot of work, everyday work. There are reasons for that. And the main challenge, I'd say, in the development is the difference between developing hardware and software products. So when you have software, you work on a software, and maybe there is some set of servers where you host it, which also adds complexity, microservices, and so on and so forth. But with hardware, and especially that is focused on drives, it's more difficult, I'd say, and too many test cases. It's impossible to cover all those cases. How so? So let's say you have this hardware box. It's not like something that magically appeared. We designed it, we invented it, we decided that it is what it is, what needs of specific customers it covers. After that, we have to test the quality of the box of the device. But it works with drives. It's not a PlayStation console. It works with drives, and the drives, there are so many drives of different types of behavior, let alone damaged ones. Damaged ones, it's always complicated. So to achieve quality at the proper quality level, in our Ukrainian R&D office, we have 600 drives to run the tests. And approximately the third part of this bunch of drives are damaged. We even have an internal saying, because we value drives, damaged drives a lot, and it's difficult to get them. You cannot take a healthy drive and do something to it and make it damaged. So we have a saying, the bad drive is a good drive, just because of the value for us. It's a layer number one. Layer number two, all the variety of drives, and certainly you cannot have all the variety. You have some subset. In our case, it's about those 600 drives, and then software. Yeah, software that have to be laser focused on what is expected by a customer. And as another example of a challenge I'd like to tell, it would be from a software part. So our flagship product is like the biggest one. This one is the smallest, right? And yeah, it's literally easy. It fits into big pack easily. You can work with it connecting to your computer. The biggest one is like a little server. It fits into server rack, and it enables our customers to work with 26 drives in parallel. 26 drives. And it's a high performance, super fast, and one of frequent uses nowadays is about RAIDs. If you know, so in servers there are RAIDs, and let's say 8 drives sit in a RAID on a server, and some customer takes out these drives or receives them to work with them. Let's say it's a digital forensic analyst. He got this drive on the table, and it was a RAID. Either RAID 0, RAID 5. For more efficient use, typically it is for the matter of reliability. When one drive degrades, you can replace it, and it just works, and your server is online. But when our clients receive such kind of drive sets, oftentimes they do not know any parameters of the RAID configuration. And if you do not know the parameters, then you are lost. You cannot assemble it into a single virtual device and you cannot access the data. So one of things that make me proud is a rate auto detection and or auto assembly module. You plug 8 drives into this device with 26 ports, and it will automatically try to assemble the drive for you and show the results in the directory and file tree. And then you understand that you can start copying already the assembled virtual device. One of things that can be considered as a differentiated value in our very narrow niche, and we are literally the best in the world in that. It helps a lot when you have something unique which is not implemented, unique, needed, and not implemented by the others because of the complexity level, and also it requires a lot of product management work. I mean, outside conversations with your customers, maybe some interviews. There's a lot of effort inside this wonderful rate auto detection module. I can speak about our software and hardware parts a lot.
That's very impressive that you have this unique devices. Basically, before your company, I wasn't looking into forensic industry at all, but I think it's super interesting that it was developed in Ukraine. And I think it's a big challenge overall to develop hardware. You mentioned about that it requires a lot of communication with your customers. So who are your usual customers, or maybe some kind of the most common use cases that you serve?
We have a variety of customers, and most of them are state organizations, and some of them are businesses like corporations or enterprises. So, for instance, Apple is our customer. Apple, Hewlett Packard, Sony. These are the names that I publicly use because many of our customers they do not want to be told about, and we are careful with that. The main and the most effective type of getting product feedback is a live communication for sure. Most likely, when we have this communication, it's either a product demo online or offline. Offline is always better when you can interact offline. It can be a training session also for an already existing customer. One of great ways also is a conference. We take part in many conferences in our field, and the people can just simply stop by the booth and poke into working devices, learn something about them, and we can also learn about their needs. Again, there are visitors of different types, new prospects or already customers of ours. And also, it might sound surprising, but good old email is also the way to get a feedback. For example, I personally send an email after 2 days when people activate a device. It's not automated. I customize emails. It's not so often happens. It's not like, every day we have 5 activations. It's a premium hardware for the specific needs, and sometimes some customer can get a bunch of devices and then activate them all together. Yeah, that can happen. And it's always a great moment when somebody starts using devices to receive the first impressions and see whether is something unmatched according to their unique workflow. Everybody has unique workflow. There is a joke about this phrase, like everybody is unique, like everybody else. So these are the main methods how we get product feedback, and definitely it's like how you get to them, but what you do when they try to respond, it's crucial. The questions that you ask, the real desire to help. If somebody is unsure that they need your device, you have to uncover this and understand the real needs, and maybe your product is not the best fit. And then the best strategy is stocking off from buying your product, and ideally suggesting something else if you know market aware, you see a solution. So the true desire to help people and to understand their pains, it's a key thing.
Oh, that's very nice of you. So it's like helping first and selling the second, right? It's not about selling, it's about
Absolutely.
helping. And then if your product can really bring the value and solve the problem, then that's the opportunity. Yeah.
Right.
I am curious personally about you. What inspired you to run your own business? And I know that you at some point joined this company, maybe a little bit after it was created. So maybe you can share about your personal journey and personal experience.
I was always a kind of a guy who is curious about entrepreneurship. And even before joining at all, maybe my high school, back then in high school, I was creating some games and things like that. For such a long time, I had numerous pet projects, So I think it's the core drive. My internal core drive is curiosity, which is I'm so curious in a number of directions and fields, and that is why it keeps my fuel burning and gets me into various adventures. And when I'm saying that, now it's gonna sound funny when I will tell you when I joined Atolla. So it happened in 2008. In 2008, it's 16 years already. I joined Atolla as a fourth partner. And by the way, when I speak with serial entrepreneurs, their mind blows when they hear about 15 or 16 years, because they used to, creating something fast, fail fast, yes, fail in something fast, or creating successfully something fast, then selling it or going IPO. And then again every, let's say, 3 years or something like that, they have this utter change of what they do. And when they hear about 15 16 years running your own business, they ask, but why, or but how? There are number motivators for me. um, it's very diverse what we do. We have full freedom, and by freedom I mean we never had a penny of investment into Atolla. So from day zero, we wanted to make it profitable, and we did.
Wow.
It may be some kind of a lucky strike because four of us, we all have been engineers, so no salespeople at all. Uh, it rarely ends up successfully if you have this combo of partners. It's better, to have a classic duo of salesperson who presumably would be CEO and technical guy who would grow into CTO in the future, right? But somehow we made it. Since then we created 7 hardware products. Maybe not so many, but for every hardware product, it's a different life cycle and lifetime value as well, because we sell not only the systems but also the subscriptions, yearly subscriptions for the system. You can purchase and have software updates and such a thing that we call lifetime warranty. When we are ready to replace your device, if it stops working for some reasons, we free of charge. Yeah, when you're on subscription. And through the 16 years, we grew, as I mentioned before, to 26 people. Not so many as you compare with other companies. But Mark Twain said comparison is a death of joy. So therefore, maybe sometimes you don't compare, and also you keep in mind your values. So for us, freedom is a value. Then when you do not have an investor, you and only you decide where to go with the company. As soon as the first investments arrive, then it totally changes the whole initial idea of the company. But of course, it accelerates the growth much, absolutely. So there are pros and cons for sure.
I have a big respect for bootstrap companies. I think it's a much harder way also because, like if you have investments from someone known, like big funds or accelerators, so they promote you sort of, like you instantly, you're everywhere in the news, like everyone is writing about you just because you are baked by someone known. But I think it's harder for bootstrap companies, but at the same time, as you said, you have more freedom. And I think because you are not in that rush to, just produce to produce, you can actually solve a real problem. Like you are working on something more real, you think about this more maybe because you're not in a rush to return investments, right? No one is
Yeah.
pressing you
Mm-hmm.
to give that percentage back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so investors, they definitely have only one thing in their mind. They want to return the money at some point in time, right? And then inevitably it becomes a focus for the whole company. And there's always a conflict between customer interests and investors. So it gets more difficult in that perspective. I personally, I adore this freedom, and also I perceive the whole work. It's like a journey, and you live at work, and that is why I'm not ready to do many things that other people do, like working. For instance, among software engineers, it's a popular theme to go to work, let's say some Google, Netflix, Apple, or those big companies. It's like your top achievement. And I realized for myself, maybe I wanted this when I was a student, maybe. But now you go there and you become a small part of a huge mechanism, fully replaceable. So you are there or you are not there. Nobody notices that you do not have that impact. And again, it's difficult to do whatever you want, right? So, for instance, building the company, again, without investors, it's also a part of life. I mean, not building the products, but building the company, building the team. I love the idea of your team is a product of the company, and it should be the best product to make and produce products for the customers. So you're building the team in the first place. And another thing that drives me, by the way, it's our culture. It's a company culture of wonderful people that are ready to help. It is based on values of simplicity, sincerity, and experiments. One of our typical behavior types is very non-traditional. It's about helping each other. So for instance, if somebody, let's say software engineer, is in the flow, writing code intensively and working hard, it is good to come and distract this person if you need help with something. Surely that has to do with your work. You know that you can come to any of your teammates and ask for help, and you'll receive this help instantly. Maybe with the exception of some exclusive situations, like if I'm having an interview with Ira, with, or I'm doing online demo or something like that. Of course, I won't interrupt. But if I'm on my individual tasks, right? So then I pause my work and then go and help. And this is one of types of behavior that fosters trust, I believe. So just psychologically, it's more safe, that everybody is a helper of everyone and it's a first priority. And everybody likes this. We don't hire people who don't like this. And it's a fail-friendly environment again. You never blame. We just analyze together some failures, learn on them, turn them into something to learn, right, and move on. There's a lot of to tell also about the culture because it's my passion. In Ukrainian office, by the way, I realized that it's also great place during these tough days when having the war and sometimes rockets flying and so on and so forth. And it's a place where people come and support each other. So there's an energy of support and cozy place with a lot of support.
Seems like the help thing kind of the second time, right? So you always have this help first with your customers or with your team. Seems like it's some sort of a core value for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I have a question that you mentioned about the tough times. How did the war affected you? Maybe your company. I looked at your timeline of your company and I noticed that you released this Atola Task Force 2, I think, the new
Last
hardware.
summer, yeah.
Uh, so, and that was the time of the war already, like this invasion, full scale invasion. So you released it in 2023. So how did you manage to continue working and even growing the team and stuff like that?
Yeah, connecting the dots task force 2 is that device I was telling you about with 26 ports.
Okay.
And we launched our first works on that before the war, for sure. It was a long running project for us. And both COVID, I'd say, and the war, they added delays into the development. However, yeah, we managed to come up with this beautiful solution. Nothing on the market that looks like that. As for the challenges, we are lucky to have our sales and assembly line in Canada. So we have our headquarters in Canada. It's a smaller part of the team, like 4 people only there. They cope with the running the business and assembling devices even in most difficult situations. Like COVID was difficult and limiting from many aspects in both Ukraine and Canada. But if it were Ukraine only for us, we might not have survived. I'd say the same about the war state. Logistics is really difficult when it comes to Ukraine and sending something, shipping something from here, because it's hardware, you need to ship it, right? You cannot sell it like a software. It's another challenging thing. Shipping and customs of multiple countries, oh, not my favorite topic. Having the headquarters in Canada working in a stable manner, it helped a lot. And if we rewind 2 years back, when the war started, the full scale war started in Ukraine, of course, it wasn't like our office was working. Moreover, it's in Kiev, so uh, almost everybody evacuated into different locations, and nobody was ready to work. I started doing my stuff on the third day because it may sound like bragging, but I'm a guy with quite high psychological immunity level, and I work on that. And when your team cannot work, there should be some someone who shows leadership and supports others. So I had been working um, since the third day and full time probably since seventh day or something like that. We had a state Ukrainian team of the following type or mode, let's say. Imagine it is April 2022 and everybody could work or not. It depended on whether they want or can. So it was like a free mode, I'd say. You do not work, but you still receive the full salary. Your full salary comes to your account, and it was in April, May. Some people were not working whatsoever. Others saw a lot of additional meaning or sense in the work because they, pulled the energy from it. You can distract yourself from doom scrolling of the news and really makes something useful and helpful for at least for your team, right? Let alone the customers. And we had this mode till mid of June. And after that, everybody returned to Kiev. We started returning in May, and in June, or I think maybe early July, everybody from the team were back. This is this story. It's a unique experience we will remember for the whole of our lives. How the war started for you, and these messages, the first days, like how are you, how are you, how are you, really, it strengthened us for sure. Now we do not afraid of many things that we couldn't have imagined before. This is, by the way, I want to add one more point in terms of investors. So let's say we do not have investors, and in this situation, I think it also was helpful because we have our own strategy of people and resource management, so to speak, and earn money and do not spend it immediately. We have a special reserve of money to support the team, even if nobody works for, let's say, 6 months. Despite the fact that we are a small company and maybe not super profitable, and sometimes it is challenging even to be profitable, but people first company we are. That helped a lot to cover the challenging period of the first months when the war started, and my lovely teammates were not working for understandable reason. And investors could do differently, like, cut the costs or something else, or there couldn't be that reserve of money because we invest and we spend it burn with a high burn rate to see the growth, to reach the next investment round, and so on and so forth. Different targets
Yeah,
and
different story.
goals.
Yeah, different mindset for sure. Very interesting. Thank you for not stopping. I think this is very important, and it's great that you are so good to your team. So people could feel more safe, so they could feel some support behind the company they work for. This is, I think, very important. Yeah. And I have one question, maybe the last. Is there anything you are looking for right now? Maybe some collaboration or maybe new markets or something like that?
It's always like that, the evergreen topic for us is a search for clients, and it's a tough process because you cannot do outbound marketing. You cannot cold call people in our situations, and the best working thing for us is going to conferences. And this year we do more than 20 conferences all around the world. It's a booth with our devices working. You can see them working and interact with the people who created the devices. So this is how we find majority of our clients. It's through conferences. Another thing is the word of mouth for sure, but it's not like you can control this. It has to do with the quality of product and if it really solves some problem for people, right? We are always happy to extend our partnership network because selling and having communication with people, let's say in Sweden, is very different from what you do in Asia, somewhere like Japan or Mid East, UAE people. So that therefore we have already a network of our value-added resellers who help us with sales and also with training sessions, getting product feedback. And it's always our priority to discuss with somebody new who could be our partner in that or another part of the world, because they already have a reputation there and they understand the mindset of people living there. So it's always our priority. I mean, searching for partners as well as for clients.
Yeah, I think I saw the list of conferences at your website, and I just like, oh wow, so many conferences and all planned all for the year. It's very structural and feels like you have a strategy, behind that. So
Yeah. And we have three people at every booth. Three people, like sales director, marketing director, and some from a tech team, anybody. So
maybe
yeah,
we
it's
can
this is the
post a
strategy.
link, add the link on the on that page with your conferences, and
Hmm.
maybe someone can come and try your devices even or meet you.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be
why
great.
not?
Yeah, okay. Do you want to add something else?
Well, I can add a little bit of my vision, probably, that would maybe inspire someone. So I wish you and our audience to treat life like a journey that consists of steps. And sometimes you have success doing another step. Celebrate it. Don't forget it. Try to be grateful for this moment. And sometimes you trip, you fail. Uh, then you just turn it into something to learn. And then when your life is a journey, and then it consists of moments when you celebrate and learn, in the very end, you'll for sure enjoy and this journey and be fulfilled after all.
Nice. Thank you so much. It's a good advice. And it was great to learn about your journey and about journey and story of your company. It was nice having you today here.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.